Welcome back to NetLab 5, Adding and Managing Virtual Hardware. This is Richard Golson, and we're going to take a look at Section 4, our final section of the lab, deleting the virtual hardware. So we're going to delete the virtual hardware that we created in the previous step. And if you take a look down here, you can see that we have those two hard disks that exist or are attached to Photon 01 virtual machine, both of which disks reside on datastore 1. Each one has its own name, and the first disk, hard disk 2, is named Photon 01_1, and hard disk 3 is named Photon 01_3.vmdk. So they have their own numbers. Also note they're the same size, and the first disk we created is thin provisioned, and it only consumed whatever disk space it needed. In this case, since it was a new blank disk, it didn't consume any space. So we saw that it was 0 bytes in the data store. The thick provision disk, hard disk 3, actually consumes all 1 gigabyte of disk space on the new disk. So therefore, we saw that it was a actual size of 1 gigabyte. All right, let's take a look at removing those two disks and see what that looks like. Also, one final thing, note we've been doing all this while the virtual machine is running. So this is one of those hot swap or hot add, hot remove items that we can do. So I'll right click on the Photon 01 virtual machine and go to my edit settings. And once this opens up or loads, let's expand hard disk 2. So we'll expand that there. And this is the thin provision disk. So I'm going to remove that disk first. So I'll go ahead and click this X, and that adds a little checkbox. There's a little warning here saying it's going to delete this. And if I leave this unchecked, my files won't be deleted from the data store. So I want to remove the files from the data store. And then I can go ahead and hit save. So that will delete that disk from the data store. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. I'll go to my datastore 1 and go to my datastore browser and select Photon 01. And you'll see that that Photon-01_1 vmdk is now gone. All right, so we can still see the 01_3 thick provision disk, but the other one has been removed. So remove the disk and the underlying files. In this case, a single vmdk file. All right, let's take a look at what happens when we remove the second disk, and we do it a little bit differently. So let me drop back over to the virtual machine and open up its settings. And we'll edit the settings on that disk. Let it load. Now, one of the things you're going to notice is that the old hard disk 3 has now become hard disk 2. So it renamed it. But we also saw that the file name, the backing file name, did not change. So when you removed the previous hard disk 2, it renamed hard disk 3 as hard disk 2. So that's actually kind of helpful because then you don't have, out of sequence disks and things like that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hit this, but I'm not going to delete the files from the data store. And let's see what that does. So we're deleting the disk, but we're not deleting the files. The other thing I want you to notice is that I have this back arrow, which basically allows me to undo removing a disk in case I've changed my mind, but I don't want to hit cancel here. So once again, I'll go and click this, but I'm not going to check the box delete files. At this point, I'm just going to hit the save button. And if I look here under storage, you can see that that disk is now gone. So I only have this single hard disk 1 here. If I go back to my datastore 1 and go to my datastore browser and select the Photon 1, you'll see that that file, the vmdk file, still exists. So this is a really nice feature because what I can do then is attach this vmdk file or create a new disk on another virtual machine and use this vmdk file, attach it to it. So if this was full of data, this would allow me to actually transfer that data over to another virtual machine that was a like configuration. All right, so that pretty much wraps this up. Again, have a look around, play with these a little bit, try some different things out, see about deleting this disk directly from here. Try some different things out, but and also make sure that you capture the appropriate VMware screen or the appropriate screenshots for the lab. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that up and take one last look at something here. If we go to my monitor, I do want to show you that under recent tasks, we can see that we reconfigured the VM by deleting datastore files. We can also see under the events and we can see those events for removing those disks. And we can go to logs. And if you bring up some of the log files, you may even find information within there. All right, this should do it now. Thanks again for watching.